Turning now to our other main story today, U.S. President Joe Biden has declared the climate crisis is here in the wake of devastating floods caused by Storm Ida. More than 40 people have died in northeastern states, some drowning in basements, others swept away in vehicles. The storm is thought to have caused tens of billions of dollars in damages. Rescue operations are still underway, and transport remains limited in major cities, including New York. Biden says the U.S. needs to rebuild to prepare for a future of intense weather.
The floodwaters have gone, revealing the destruction from the remnants of Hurricane Ida. Flash floods crashed through this neighborhood in Queens, New York. In Danny Yong's home, water poured through this wall. He and his wife were trapped in the basement as the water rose fast.
The water goes to my leg. So my neighbor in the second floor, he hold my hand, and then I hold my wife's hand and my dad's hand so we can get out from the basement.
As communities take stock of the storm's damage, stories of lucky rescues are emerging. And tragedies too. In this block, tenants tried to save a neighbor after water surged up from the sewers into her flat.
So then the tenants heard her. She was screaming, "Help me, help me, help me." We all came to her aid, trying to get her out, but it was so strong of the water, the thrust of the water was so strong, we could not peel the door back.
And dozens more lost their lives. Ida hit the state of Louisiana on the U.S. Gulf Coast as a Category 4 hurricane on the weekend. It weakened to a tropical storm, but grew more deadly over the states of New Jersey and New York, bringing record rainfall to the region, turning major roads into rivers and stranding cars and lorries. New York State's disaster planners were not prepared.
This is the first time we've had a flash flood event of this proportion in the city of New York and in the outlying areas. We haven't experienced this before, but we should expect it the next time.
U.S. President Biden is facing calls for federal help from many U.S. states this summer.
The past few days of Hurricane Ida and the wildfires in the West and the unprecedented flash floods in New York and New Jersey is yet another reminder that these extreme storms and the climate crisis are here. We need to be much better prepared. We need to act. This isn't about politics.
Biden is promising more investment to make the country's infrastructure able to withstand more devastating storms like this one. Disasters that are becoming more common.
Well, meteorologist Matthew Cappucci is covering this story. He joins us now from Washington. Matthew, more than 40 are dead in the northeast of the U.S. from a widely anticipated storm. How come so many people were caught off guard?
That's a really good question. I think so few media outlets are actually accepting the fact that it was widely anticipated. So I very much appreciate you mentioning that. Honestly, I think it's the biggest challenge and the biggest dilemma facing forecasters is that even the best forecast, the most exact, accurate weather forecast we can make still does no good if it falls on deaf ears or if it's not really received or interpreted by the public correctly. And so ultimately, being a meteorologist entails doing two things. A, being the scientist to produce a forecast, but being an effective communicator. And we thought that we did a good job getting the word out. Apparently, we either didn't or there's some sort of missing link to what it is that we do. But we're going to be going back and trying to figure out why so many people perished when we thought we knocked it out of the park.
You say that there were predictions or warnings were given, and you talked about the importance of communication. Why did the communication, these early warnings, not get through to those people? What went wrong?
I think so often people, when they see the forecast for something either atypical or extreme, they tune it out because we have so much these days in the media that is unfortunately either incorrect information or misinformation, that when there is a legitimate source of information that sounds a little bit far-fetched, I think people just kind of write it off. For example, this was the first time that the National Weather Service ever issued a high-risk alert for flooding in the United States, in the northeastern U.S. rather, this far in advance. This was the first time we ever had a flash flood emergency in that part of the world. There were a number of firsts with this event, but I think so often when you have big stories these days that, you know, are real stories, but you know, come in an era when misinformation online reigns true, people just tune it out.
So the message may have gotten lost in the noise. Does Ida still have the potential to cause more damage, Matthew, or is the worst now over?
The good news, the worst is now over. We have cobalt blue skies building in its wake, temperatures dropping, feeling a little bit cooler, nice and crisp behind. It actually feels really comfortable outside. It's a good fall air mass. But it completely believes the danger and the fury that ensued just 24 hours earlier. It was that clash that gave rise to these very strong storms, and really this clash that is almost poetic, where from destruction you have beauty.
Matthew, thank you very much. Meteorologist Matthew Cappucci there in Washington.